The history of unpunished violence against our people clearly indicates that we must be prepared to defend ourselves, or we will continue to be a defenseless people at the mercy of a ruthless and violent racist mob.
I couldn't put on one of them skinny suits. I said, damn, what is that? It's all up here. The fly that used to be hidden by the length of a coat is all the way up here. Your behind is out as a man. Well, who's spotting that for you?
Yeah, it's almost like if they can't kill us, they want to feminize us.
Say it again, Charlemagne. That's exactly right. The black male is being feminized. Oh, I gotta say one more thing on that. Have you seen these commercials? If you take this medicine and you find yourself developing breasts, stop immediately.
I think you went too far if you started growing breasts.
That's the point. But it's a chemical reaction. Do you know? Look at this, another medicine. They say if you take this and you have suicidal thoughts, stop. You mean a pill with chemistry in it could make me, as a sane man, think insanity to kill myself? Well, what about the rise of homosexuality and lesbianism? Is that a natural phenomenon? Are we born that way? Or is it a chemical reaction that makes us susceptible to ideas like that? We got to think now, because we're dealing with a scientist of evil that is called in the scriptures Satan. And he's working on us, baby. And I'm just saying this on this wonderful TV show. I think if we check what we eat and check the pills that we use, we'll find out that some of us are absolutely being chemicalized as we're being feminized.
In a society that has long sought to define and control the identities of marginalized groups, the phenomenon of the feminization of the black man emerges as a deeply troubling narrative. This narrative does not merely reflect social dynamics. It perpetuates stereotypes, diminishes cultural strength, and further enforces the oppressive structures that marginalize black masculinity. The implications of this feminization are profound, revealing how societal expectations and media portrayals can distort identity and reinforce harmful hierarchies. Historically, the black man has had to navigate a landscape rife with hostility and prejudice. From the days of chattel slavery, where physical strength was exploited yet dehumanized, to contemporary portrayals that often box black men into narrowly defined roles of hypermasculinity or caricature, the spectrum of representation has been fraught with challenges. The current trend of feminizing the black man emerges as a reaction to these societal pressures, one that seeks to undermine traditional masculinity, but often reinforces its own damaging stereotypes in the process. The media plays a crucial role in this feminization. Portrayals of black men in popular culture frequently oscillate between the extremes of hypermasculinity and overly emotional vulnerability. Such representations create a double-edged sword. On one side, they can challenge oppressive norms by showcasing emotional depth. On the other, they risk stripping away the authentic complexities of black male identity, reducing individuals to mere symbols of a cause, rather than fully realized human beings. The consequences of this feminization extend beyond the screen and into the lived experiences of black men. The pressure to conform to these shifting dynamics can lead to identity crises, where black men may feel compelled to adopt traits traditionally associated with femininity, or conversely, embrace hypermasculine behaviors to counteract the feminization. This precarious balancing act prevents authentic self-expression and reinforces toxic stereotypes that devalue the richness of black masculinity. Additionally, there's a significant conversation to be had about how this feminization impacts relationships within the black community. The perception of black men as either overly emotional or excessively aggressive can breed mistrust and misunderstanding in interpersonal dynamics, leading to fractures in community bonds. Authenticity and vulnerability should not be viewed as weaknesses, but as essential elements of a holistic identity. Embracing the full spectrum of black manhood, including strength, vulnerability, emotion, and leadership, allows for a more profound connection within the community and fosters greater mutual respect. The feminization of the black man directly impacts societal perceptions, often leading to systemic inequalities. The stereotypes that emerge can inform policies, educational opportunities, and employment prospects. A society that views black men through a misrepresented lens may fail to see the full potential of these individuals, continuing cycles of disadvantage and undermining efforts toward genuine equity and justice. It is essential to challenge the narratives that seek to feminize black masculinity in a reductive manner. This should not be an indictment of femininity, which is vital and powerful in its own right, but rather a call for a comprehensive understanding of identity that honors the complexities of blackness. Celebrating black manhood should involve a recognition of its depth, embracing both its strength and vulnerability without forcing it into preconceived boxes. Ultimately, the fight against the feminization of the black man requires a collective commitment to self-definition and empowerment. By rejecting societal pressures to conform to limiting stereotypes, black men can reclaim their narratives. In doing so, they not only assert their place within the broader spectrum of identity, but also affirm their inherent dignity and worth. Together, as a community, we can cultivate an environment that celebrates the multifaceted nature of black masculinity, paving the way for future generations to thrive, free from the constraints of oppressive narratives. It is time to rise, resist, and redefine what it means to be a black man in today's world, embracing our complexity, our resilience, and our undeniable strength.
Until we have a psychological revolution, we won't have any other kind. Until you change the way black people think, you change nothing about us. Our problems, we have the money. We got all the educated people. You understand? We got the intelligence. We got the number. We got what we need. The only resource we're missing is the psychological resource. Black people are not committed. Black people don't believe in themselves. White power has convinced us we can't beat it. You see that? White power has convinced us we can't beat it. And this is a big reason why, a lot of black men are dating white women. Stay with me. The white woman is the black man's surrender flag. When I walk into a party with my white wife, when I go on vacation with my white wife, when I go into a job interview with my white wife, when I go to a business dinner with my white wife, I'm communicating to the white man that as much as I can be, I am one of you and I am on your side because look at who I'm sleeping with. The white woman is a symbol of the black man's masculine surrender.
You think so?
But organization, you can't solve any problem without being organized. Until we organize, we don't solve any problem. So when he said, what's the next step? Organize. In other words, where's the study group at in Toronto? How often are black men coming together to study and to also discuss our issues and plot a course forward? Where is the black bank in Toronto? Or can we start a credit union? Or could we start a SUSU where every black man in this cipher is going to put $100 in a month, and once we get $100,000, we're going to buy a building so we got a place where we can organize our people, take care of our young folks. Institutions are 50% of the solutions. Institutions, school, bank, hospital, supermarket, manufacturing, distribution. If we ain't talking institutions, we're not serious about solutions. And the reason why we can't change our people's behavior is in order to change behavior, you got to have control over the institutions that they need, right? If I want to work for the white man, he's going to tell me how to dress, he's going to tell me how to look, he's going to tell me how to talk. And I'm going to do it because I want that job, or I want that free food, or I want that housing. You can only control people's behavior when you got something they need. We don't do anything for our people. Why the hell would they listen to you? Until you can provide them with what they need, you'll never get their attention.
For far too long, we have been ensnared in a narrative that tells us we are powerless in the face of white dominance. This pervasive belief, instilled in us through generations of systemic oppression and cultural conditioning, has led many to underestimate their own potential and capabilities. The forces of white power have not only sought to dominate our communities, but have also conspired to undermine our self-belief, crafting a world that makes it seem as though we are destined to fail. The history of our struggle is a testament to our resilience and strength. From the struggles for freedom during slavery to the brave voices of the civil rights movement, we have shown time and again that we are capable of extraordinary things. Yet, the dominant narrative perpetuates the idea that our contributions are secondary, that our excellence is the exception rather than the rule. It is this insidious messaging that has eroded our confidence and fueled a sense of inadequacy within us. The tactics of white power are multifaceted and deeply ingrained in our institutions, often manifesting in educational disparities, economic inequalities, and media portrayals that diminish our worth. We see it in classrooms where our history is overlooked or misrepresented, in job markets that favor those with privilege, and in cultural narratives that sideline our achievements. Time and again, we are left feeling invisible and unworthy, feeding into a damaging cycle that suggests we are not enough. This focused oppression also breeds division among us. We have been conditioned to doubt each other, to compete rather than collaborate, and to internalize a sense of inferiority. This fracture only serves to strengthen the narratives that white power champions, keeping us fragmented and distracted while it continues to thrive. We are often pitted against one another based on skin tone, socioeconomic status, or differing ideologies, perpetuating the notion that we are our own worst enemies. Yet, it is essential to understand that this belief in our inadequacy is not a reflection of our true capabilities, but rather a manipulation of our perception, crafted by those who seek to maintain the status quo. The more we begin to believe that we are powerless, the easier it becomes for those in positions of authority to maintain their grip on us. This illusion of helplessness prevents us from rising, from fighting back, and from reclaiming our rightful place in history. We must confront and dismantle these harmful narratives by engaging in a collective act of self-belief. This involves recognizing our achievements, celebrating our culture, and supporting one another in our endeavors. It means understanding that our worth is inherent, not bestowed or dictated by those who wish to suppress us. Each time we uplift our voices and assert our presence, we chip away at the illusion that white power has created. We have a rich history filled with leaders, creators, thinkers, and activists who have carved paths against overwhelming odds. We must remind ourselves of their legacy, a legacy grounded in resilience, creativity, and an unwavering belief in our collective strength. It is through acknowledging and honoring their contributions that we can ignite a renewed sense of purpose within ourselves. Now is the time to rise with conviction and to challenge the pervasive narratives that have sought to diminish us. By fostering unity and instilling a spirit of self-belief, we can reclaim our power. We must stand firm in the knowledge that we are equipped to overcome, that our voices matter, and that our dreams are valid. With every act of self-affirmation, we chip away at the foundations of oppression. Defying the illusion of white power begins within us. It requires the courage to confront our own doubts and the determination to uplift one another. By believing in ourselves and in our community, we can dismantle the barriers that have held us back and reclaim the narrative of our history, a narrative that reflects the full spectrum of our experiences and honors the profound strength that lies within us. Our empowerment is not just a dream. It is our reality waiting to be realized.
This prayer because I'm trying to show up for Ice Spice like I'm Christian. Nah, I'm just no. I'm gonna just say this prayer so the Lord can protect us as we go through the rest of the night and the rest of our careers. You know what I'm saying? So everybody hold hands. Hold hands, hold hands. Lord, thank you so much for bringing this amazing group together right now with this amazing stream and our amazing teams, Lord. We are all from the same place and we are all trying to get to the same place, which is the top. And we all want to experience different things in our lives, chat. So thank you so much for bringing all of us together. And I pray that you allow us to grow on other people, on each other. And I pray that you allow us to reach any measures in this life. And you just watch over us daily. You bless us. You allow us to bless other people with our work and our amazing craft. And you help us enjoy this night. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Listen, we need a bottle of rosé. Listen, shout out to all my Don Julio. What the fuck? I just bought these shits.
Whose tea is that?
You were sitting right there too.
You knocked it over. How I knocked it over?
Oh!
In celebrity culture, where public figures wield significant influence over our lives and values, there exists a disturbing trend that demands our critical attention. The pervasive presence of symbols, attire, and gestures associated with darker influences among many prominent celebrities reveals a troubling undercurrent of worship and allegiance to forces that stand in opposition to our collective well-being. It is crucial for us to recognize these signs, understand their implications, and make conscious choices about whom we choose to elevate and emulate. The glamour of celebrity culture often conceals a more sinister reality. Many celebrities, through their clothing, symbols, and hand gestures, project affiliations with symbols of power and influence that are deeply rooted in darker, often malevolent traditions. This isn't about mere fashion or artistic expression. It's about a deliberate signaling of allegiance to forces that can have profound and harmful effects on our community and our values. Clothing is one of the most overt ways celebrities communicate their affiliations. Distinctive patterns, colors, and designs often carry hidden meanings that can signal connections to esoteric or occult traditions. For example, the frequent appearance of certain symbols, such as the all-seeing eye or inverted pentagrams, on clothing or accessories, is not just a matter of fashion choice. These symbols are historically associated with various forms of spiritual or occult practices, which may symbolize allegiance to forces that seek to undermine moral and ethical values. Hand gestures are another powerful tool used to convey hidden affiliations. Certain hand signs and gestures, often seen in celebrity performances or public appearances, have specific meanings that can indicate a connection to darker traditions. These gestures, which might appear innocuous to the casual observer, can be symbolic of allegiance to ideologies that oppose our collective good. By understanding the significance of these gestures, we can better discern the intentions behind their use. Symbolism in media and entertainment is not merely decorative, but serves as a medium through which celebrities can communicate their beliefs and affiliations. The presence of these symbols in our entertainment and media can subtly influence our perceptions and values. It is essential to recognize that these symbols can represent ideologies or practices that do not align with our interests and may even seek to exploit or undermine us. It is important to understand why distancing ourselves from these influences is necessary. Elevating individuals who are aligned with darker influences not only perpetuates their power, but can also erode the values and principles that are fundamental to our well-being. By continuously engaging with and supporting such figures, we inadvertently contribute to the normalization of harmful ideologies and practices. To resist these influences, we need to educate ourselves about the symbols, attire, and gestures associated with darker affiliations. This awareness enables us to make informed choices about which celebrities and cultural figures we choose to support. It also empowers us to foster a cultural environment that aligns with our values and promotes positive influences. In seeking out role models and public figures, we should prioritize those who demonstrate integrity, uplift our community, and reflect our shared values. These individuals, who contribute positively to society and align with our principles, are far more deserving of our support and admiration than those whose affiliations with darker influences are evident. The influence of celebrities who align themselves with darker forces is a serious issue that requires our vigilant attention. By recognizing the signs and understanding the implications of their affiliations, we can make more informed decisions about whom we choose to support and emulate. Our collective effort to distance ourselves from negative influences and to uplift those who reflect our values will help ensure that our culture remains resilient and aligned with principles that promote our well-being and progress.
What we found out is that how you learn about topics like slavery and the civil rights movement really depends on where you live and the textbooks you're using. And some of the textbooks we looked at, there's information that may surprise you. Is there a problem with how we teach American history in this country?
Yes.
Renowned scholar Dr. Ibram X. Kendi can't believe what students are learning about America's past.
Reviewing these texts closely, now I can see why so many students get to college and they're like, why didn't we learn this in high school? Because it isn't in these texts.
We asked Kendi, a CBS News contributor, to take a look at 4 textbooks used in public school classrooms. The first book, The American Pageant, is used to teach advanced placement history. The publisher of the book says more than 5 million students learn from it each year. We looked at the 16th edition of the book, published in 2016. So here on page 346, it says, in the deeper South, many free blacks were mulattoes.
The term mulatto is a racist slur against biracial people.
The book also includes this map, referring to enslaved Africans in 1775 as immigrants, alongside the Dutch, the Scottish, and the German.
To refer to them again as immigrants insinuates that they chose to come, the African people who almost totally were forced to come and certainly did not want to come to the United States in chains.
Just to see if things have changed, we looked at the latest edition of the book published this year. The map is still there.
The assignment asks students to put a price on slaves.
What and how students learn about history is different everywhere and sometimes problematic.
The teacher, who is white, told them to write funny captions on images of freed slaves.
There are reports the teacher made black students act as slaves.
There is no national standard for what history is taught. Each state sets standards which outlines what students are expected to learn. CBS News took a look at the social studies standards for all 50 states and the District of Columbia. We found 7 states do not directly mention slavery, and 8 do not mention the civil rights movement. Only 2 states mention white supremacy, and 16 list states' rights as a cause of the Civil War, which Kendi says is a problem.
This was the term that the Confederate states that later segregationists and even some slaveholders utilized to hide that they were really fighting for the rights of slaveholders.
Kevin Ellis is the chair of the Texas State Board of Education. About 10% of the nation's students attend a Texas public school. In 2018, the state changed its standards to teach slavery as the central cause of the Civil War, but it still mentions states' rights. Should states' rights even be taught at all?
So I think even when you look at states' rights, it focused around slavery. And so what we're doing now is just being clear that those states' rights that the South was fighting over was states' rights for them to have slavery.
Kendi also took a look at this textbook, Texas History, which is adopted by the state to teach middle school social studies. It covers topics including slavery and the Civil War.
This is a picture, and the caption says, "Some U.S. settlers brought slaves to Texas to help work the fields and do chores." And, I don't think we should describe slave labor as chores.
A few pages later, Kendi pointed out this image. The caption for this picture says, "What characteristics of slave life does this image show?" Does this depict slavery?
If we were going to have a single picture that depicted slavery, it should be a picture that demonstrates terror and violence.
We also asked Ellis what he thought about the picture.
Well, I think one of the as we go through the struggles and the injustices that the slaves went through, I think the important thing is not to do what was done in earlier times and make it sound like they were better off here than they were back in their.
But this picture doesn't look so bad. There's no marks on anyone's body, and this is supposed to represent enslaved people.
I think the point that's being made is the fact this was not a true representation of what slaves went through and the injustices that they went through. And I can't answer why that made it in that textbook. We have progressed in the past 5 years and 10 years and 20 years, and we still have more work to do. And I think this would be an example of that.
The publisher of that Texas history book, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, told CBS News in a statement that it appreciates and values Dr. Kendi's analysis of the textbook, and they are making intentional changes to the content in future editions. Cengage, the publisher of The American Pageant, said the authors work strenuously to provide an accurate, fair, and engrossing account of American history, and they are always striving to improve. They note the newest edition makes corrections and includes firsthand accounts from African Americans of the time.
So it's important to point out, though, that the publishers can make these changes, but it's up to the states to adopt them.
It's up to the states. And you know, it's funny because I talked to a girlfriend of mine, her daughter's in high school, and she just got an A in her U.S. history class, and I told her about this story, and she said, we have to teach them. It's up to the parents. And I think there is sort of this unsaid thing, even especially in Black communities, that you're going to learn it from your family and not necessarily rely on the school to do it, just because you look at these changes that they've made. This is in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's very recent. Well, it's the most alarming thing you said in that story was that there were 7 states where slavery is not even mentioned.
Or civil rights. That's what I find so jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
And I think when you're a kid, you're reading the textbook, it doesn't occur to you to challenge it.
Right.
You need a story like this to let you know.
Yes.
And it's also...
The history that is taught in our schools is not merely a collection of dates and events. It is a narrative that shapes our identity, informs our understanding of the world, and influences the future we strive to create. For too long, the portrayal of Black history in American textbooks has been plagued by inaccuracies, distortions, and a glaring absence of critical contributions made by Black individuals and communities. This misrepresentation not only undermines the richness of our heritage, but also perpetuates harmful stereotypes and systemic oppression. From the very beginning of America's history, Black people have played an integral role, yet our contributions have often been minimized or entirely omitted. Textbooks frequently depict slavery in a manner that sanitizes the brutality and dehumanization faced by millions. This oversimplification leads students to believe that our sufferings were mere footnotes in a broader narrative, rather than foundational elements of the nation's development. The omission of significant figures such as Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, and Harriet Tubman reinforces a narrative that seeks to erase the struggles and triumphs of Black enslaved individuals who fought for dignity and justice. The civil rights movement is often portrayed as a series of isolated events led by a few prominent individuals, rather than the culmination of decades, if not centuries, of collective resistance. Activists, organizers, and everyday citizens who champion change are frequently absent from textbooks, leading to a misunderstanding of the grassroots efforts that were essential for progress. This lack of representation sends a clear message. The voices of Black people are not valued in the telling of our own history. The representation of Black culture, art, and achievements also suffers in the textbooks used across the country. Contributions to literature, music, science, and technology are often relegated to a brief mention, if acknowledged at all. The brilliance of Black minds and their innovations is sidelined, allowing a narrow understanding of what Blackness means to permeate education. This distortion of history is not merely an academic issue, it has real-world implications. When students of all races are educated in environments where the contributions and struggles of Black people are inadequately represented, it fosters ignorance and breeds prejudice. It perpetuates the myth of Black inferiority and further entrenches systems of inequality. Young Black students, in particular, are left to navigate an educational landscape that denies them recognition and visibility, undermining their self-worth and sense of belonging. As members of the Black community, it is vital to reclaim our narrative. We must advocate for a curriculum that accurately reflects the complexities and richness of Black history. This includes ensuring that textbooks prioritize truth over convenience, and that they highlight the resilience and achievements of Black people. Education should empower, not diminish. It should educate, not erase. Let us demand comprehensive and honest representations of Black history in our educational institutions. Our story is a tapestry woven with threads of struggle, resilience, and triumph. To distort this narrative is to diminish the very essence of who we are. We must rise together to ensure that future generations inherit a complete and truthful account of our past, a history that honors the legacy of those who fought tirelessly for justice and equality, and one that empowers us to shape a brighter future.
I really want you guys to understand that time is running out. And a lot of Black people say that, but for real. Part of why the civil rights movement has been so successful, and part of why those who have come after in terms of our leadership have been able to maintain a presence, is that Black people have always had a certain amount of moral currency that we have been using. And let me be the first to tell you, that's used up. White America has been watching us act like fools for a long enough time where any sympathy they may have had to our plight is completely gone. You're approaching a country that, forget hating Black people and not hating Black people, they just don't care. You can be talking about affirmative action, they be like, I don't care. It literally is of no importance to me. I don't care about slavery. I don't care about segregation. I don't care about you. I don't care how many of you all go to jail. I don't care at all, because I'm broke. You can't be the proud, noble fighter when every single time someone sees a person that looks like you on television, they're acting like a damn fool. How would they know you're not a damn fool?
For far too long, we have danced to the tune of oppression, often playing the fool while our dignity has been stripped bare. Each laugh, each jest, while momentarily liberating, embeds the perception of our community as jesters in the broader societal landscape. We have struggled against systemic injustice, yet our actions sometimes perpetuate the very stereotypes we seek to dismantle. There comes a profound moment when we must reflect on the image we project to the world and acknowledge that the sympathy we once garnered is steadily evaporating, leaving behind the residue of mockery and contempt. It's not just about reparations, though they are owed to us. They are a necessary acknowledgement of the wrongs inflicted over centuries. Yet, while we pursue the reparation of our resources, we must also repair our image. The narrative of the oppressed is not just about what is done to us. It is fundamentally about how we choose to respond. If we continue to engage in behavior that feeds into the stereotype of the fool, we risk losing the validity of our cries for justice. Much like the boy who cried wolf, our calls for understanding and aid become lost among the noise when we choose laughter over fortitude. Acting the fool has become a coping mechanism, sometimes a source of unity and communal strength, yet it is simultaneously destructive. It distracts from the core issues we face, weakening our collective voice when we should be raising it in unison. There should be no confusion in the minds of those who witness our struggle. We must present ourselves not just as victims of our past, but as stewards of our future. We have the right to demand respect, yet respect is a two-way street forged through consistent behaviors and actions that reflect our worthiness. As we navigate this complex reality, we must embrace the power of seriousness, the seriousness of our plight, the seriousness of our aspirations. We are a reflection of our ancestors' struggles, and when we diminish ourselves through folly, we dim the light of their legacy. Armed with knowledge of our history, we have the opportunity to stand firm in our dignity, commanding the respect that has been historically denied to us. To move forward, we must cultivate a culture where our actions align with our stated goals. We deserve reparations, and we will continue to fight for them. But we must also cultivate an environment where we uplift one another, not by clowning, but by confronting society with the strength of our intellects, the power of our narratives, and the unwavering resilience that has marked our existence. Our issues are grave. Our response must be grave as well. True liberation comes not from comedic relief, but from a serious commitment to improvement and growth. We need to gather ourselves and approach our struggles with the solemnity they deserve. The world already looks for excuses to dismiss us, but we provide them with ample material each time we embody the stereotypes thrown at us. We can no longer afford to act foolish. The stakes are far too high. While laughter has its place, let's recognize when it's time to put away the masks that hide our deeper pain and aspirations. Let us embrace the seriousness of our existence and become the architects of our future, for only then will we command the respect we deserve. Our history is rich with struggle, and though the road ahead is fraught with challenges, our greatest weapon remains our dignity. It's time to stand tall, reclaim our narrative, and show the world that we are more than what they have scripted for us. We are a community worthy of respect, justice, and honor.
The great majority of sugar that was consumed in Europe came from that part of the world, came from that island. The coffee that went to Europe came from that island.
That colony that the Spanish founded, taken by the French, eventually became the most profitable colony in the Americas, and arguably, depending which economist you consult, the most profitable colony in the world at the time. It became the centerpiece of the transatlantic slave system. It became what gave France its supremacy over Britain in the 18th century. I mean, this island, it's impossible to overstate the economic importance of the island in the period we're talking about. It produced more profit than all of North America combined.
This was a wealth that was largely born by sugar, which was not only an item used to sweeten your tea and coffee, but it was also a marker of class. It was seen as a sign of sophistication when one used sugar. And in certain circles, it was even seen as a miracle drug of some sorts. And that helped to generate tremendous amounts of wealth on the island of Hispaniola, which is one of the reasons why the French, ultimately backed by the United States, fought so fiercely to retain that island.
I mean, the life expectancy in Jamaica or Haiti, for example, was often between 3 and 7 years. So once you arrived on the island, you were worked to death on average between 3 and 7 years. I mean, it's genocide. And so that was what contributed, the type of torture. Because the white population was so much smaller than, say, on mainland America, vis-a-vis the black population, the paranoia was worse. And therefore the types of punishment, the types of torture, the extremity of the slave regime was much more severe in the Caribbean.
Taking pregnant women, crucify them, split their belly open enough so they will have a game. People are gonna bet who's gonna die first, the baby or the mother.
The reason why there was more rebellions in Jamaica and in the Caribbean in general is a number of factors. One, conditions were much worse. And I don't say that in any way to denigrate or downplay how brutal conditions were in America, but we can see this from the fact that the slavery was so bad in the Caribbean that the populations were not even able to reproduce themselves. So constantly new populations had to be brought from Africa.
And one of the things they used to do is bury us alive on an anthill, leaving your head so that you would slowly get tortured to death by ants eating your skull.
The echoes of our ancestors' suffering often reverberate through our collective consciousness, reminding us of the brutal realities that shaped our history. In the context of Haitian slavery, particularly in the sugar plantations, the pain and torment endured by our forebears were harrowing and relentless. These conditions did not just reflect the inhumane treatment of individuals. They encapsulated a system designed to dehumanize an entire people, stripping them of their dignity while exploiting their labor for profit. Haiti, once known as Saint-Domingue, was the crown jewel of the French sugar plantation system in the 18th century. Enslaved Africans were forcefully brought to these plantations under unbearable circumstances, stripped of their identities, families, and futures. The relentless pursuit of profit transformed sugar into the most lucrative commodity of the time. Yet the cost was exorbitant, not measured in currency, but in blood, sweat, and tears. The dehumanizing regime instituted by plantation owners did not recognize the humanity of the enslaved. Instead, they were reduced to mere tools for economic gain. The daily existence of enslaved Haitians was marked by backbreaking labor, often starting before dawn and lasting until nightfall. It was a life filled with unbearable toil, where the harsh sun beat down mercilessly upon bodies already worn by abuse. Work on the sugar plantations was particularly grueling. Men, women, and children were forced to endure extreme physical demands, enduring whippings and punishment for the slightest transgressions. The sugarcane harvest was a perilous time, heralding not just the threat of injury, but also the ever-present specter of death from exhaustion and maltreatment. Disease ran rampant in the crowded, unsanitary conditions where enslaved individuals were housed. Malaria, yellow fever, and dysentery claimed many lives, yet the response from plantation owners was tragically predictable. More slaves were brought in to replace the lost laborers rather than addressing the root causes of illness. This brutal cycle of exploitation and neglect forged an environment where suffering became an unending reality, stripping away hopes for a better life. Despite the dehumanization, the resilience of the enslaved was profound. They cultivated a rich culture stemming from their pain, preserving their spirits and traditions amid oppressive conditions. The impact of slavery in Haiti reverberated beyond the confines of the plantation. The trauma endured by generations has left an indelible mark on the psyche of the Haitian people. The struggle for freedom culminated in the Haitian Revolution, the first successful slave revolt in history, achieving independence in 1804. Yet, the legacy of suffering lingers. Haiti has borne the heavy burden of a tumultuous history, marred by exploitation and external intervention. These factors further illustrate how the effects of slavery persist, intertwining with contemporary struggles for dignity and recognition. Today, as we confront our shared history, it becomes imperative to recognize the resilience of those who suffered. The brutal conditions endured by our ancestors serve as a stark reminder of the ongoing fight against oppression in all its forms. To honor their legacy, we must advocate for justice and equity, ensuring that their stories are not relegated to the shadows of history. Each time we raise our voices against inequality, we pay homage to those who labored in the sugarcane fields, who fought valiantly for freedom, and whose spirits continue to inspire us. Understanding the brutal realities faced by Haitian slaves on sugar plantations is not merely an academic exercise. It is a call to acknowledge the deep-seated roots of injustice that affect us today. Their suffering demands recognition, not just in history books, but also in the lives we live and the communities we build. Let us remember their pain and fortitude, ensuring that their sacrifice is never forgotten in our ongoing quest for justice and liberation.
A lot of people see my situation and not think that I'm not high functioning.
What situation?
Okay, so I'm not married. I have beautiful children.
How many?
8.
By how many women?
3. And this is the kicker. I want more.
By multiple women? What's the intent?
I just want God
about
to
your
bring
wife?
them. I just want God to bring them.
Oh, okay.
My desire to get married is lower than my fear of divorce. So, as you had said, Dr. Brian, you said it, I didn't say it, I will agree. I'm just taking my time.
You're not taking your time.
I am, though.
You're being very action-based. You're not taking your time.
I'm taking my time.
You're being very action-based. You have 8 kids with 3 different women.
Yes.
You are creating, procreating, and multiplying. That is not taking your time. You're being very selectively active. Okay? So you're creating, in disclaimer, the kids are innocent, they are beautiful and amazing. Anything I say has nothing to do with them babies. But you are proactively choosing where you want to be active at and where you want to take your time. You want to take your time in having a wife because of your own fears. But you will, and I say this with all respect and love, what I'm about to say next, okay, Cam? But you will selfishly create broken families, even if you're in their life and you're a proactive father, and I believe you're an amazing daddy. I can only imagine with just your presence and knowing you. But these families are still broken. Every child cannot have Papa in the house with them. So some child, if not all, will end up with some kind of deficit without daddy being there. Now, you chose to do that. I'm not saying you sat there and woke up one morning and said, I want to be selfish today, so I'm going to go make a baby. Not saying that at all. But those are selfish acts at the expense of your fear. And yeah, that is a low functioning behavior to say that I'm going to build these houses and put kids and these beautiful women and kids in them, but I ain't going to create a home in them. I'm going to wait till I dissipate my fear to find a wife where I'm still going to be fearful with, because there's no such thing as not having some type of nerve or some type of feeling behind marrying somebody. And then I'm going to build a home with her while all these other beautiful babies have houses. That's completely unfair and that's selfish. And so, yes, you're taking your time in this department, but you're not taking your time in this department, which means you're compartmentalizing. And compartmentalizing never works. Compartmentalizing hurts everybody involved. Everybody who's in this box and that box and this box and that box and this box. And then here you go over here trying to figure out what box you're going to feed or entertain or do. Then you're looking outside to figure out who's your next victim to put in the box. It's unhealthy.
In the shadows of systemic oppression, we have fought tirelessly for our dignity, respect, and rights. Yet amidst the struggle, there arises a critical conversation that we must not shy away from, one that centers on the well-being of our children and the legacy we choose to leave behind. We are at a pivotal moment in our history where the decisions we make today will shape the lives of future generations. It is essential that we prioritize family as the bedrock upon which our children can thrive. The prevailing narrative often emphasizes personal freedom and the pursuit of momentary pleasure, particularly when it comes to our intimate lives. However, in that pursuit, we must not overlook the profound responsibility we bear as parents. To give life is to make a commitment that transcends self-indulgence. It is to acknowledge the weight of our choices and the impact they have on the innocent lives we bring into this world. Our sexual organs should not dictate our fate, but rather serve as a reminder of the solemn duty we carry as guardians of the next generation. Family is not just a social construct. It is a vital foundation for every child's development. Children thrive when nurtured in a supportive environment that includes both a mother and father figure. Each brings unique strengths that contribute to the holistic growth of a child: emotional balance, discipline, unconditional love, and guidance through life's challenges. The absence of one or the other can leave a chasm in a child's emotional and psychological well-being. The need for family structures is critical, especially within our community, where historical injustices have left many longing for stability and support. It is often those very adversities that lead to cycles of hardship, and it is our responsibility to break them. An empowered community begins with empowered families. We must resist the urge to prioritize fleeting desires over the long-term well-being of our children. The question we should ask ourselves is not merely, can I have a child? But rather, am I prepared to raise this child in a loving and supportive environment? Having children without considering the consequences can easily descend into a pattern of selfishness. We have seen the repercussions of raising children in unstable circumstances, where love, guidance, and stability are sacrificed for the sake of personal convenience. This cycle must end. Our children deserve better. They deserve a fighting chance in a world that remains hostile to their existence. They deserve the full spectrum of parental love and guidance to navigate the complexities of life. We are a community built on resilience, strength, and hope. Let us channel that energy toward creating environments where our children can flourish. Investing in our families is paramount. This means fostering relationships based on commitment, mutual respect, and shared values. It means taking a step back and assessing whether we are truly ready to welcome a child into our lives before taking that leap. It is time for us to shift our mindset. Let us prioritize family. Let us amplify our collective voice, and let us foster a generation equipped with the love, strength, and guidance necessary to rise above societal challenges. The moment we put down our petty desires is the moment we can lift up our children. This is our call to action, to be the stewards of a brighter future, to be the guiding light for those who will inherit the world we shape today. Our children are worth the effort. Our families are worth the commitment. And our legacy is worth the sacrifice. Together, let us reclaim the narrative and reaffirm our dedication to building strong families where love and stability reign supreme. Let this be the foundation upon which we stand together, united for our children and committed to creating a legacy that uplifts us all.
Tonight, CBS News is reporting alarming new details in the nationwide listeria outbreak linked to recalled Boar's Head deli meats. We've obtained documents that show federal inspectors flagged dozens of violations at the Boar's Head plant in Virginia linked to the recall, including mold, mildew, and insects repeatedly found at the facility. At least 57 people have now been treated at hospitals in more than a dozen states. The number of deaths has jumped to 9, making this the largest outbreak of listeria since 2011.
It is with a heavy heart that I address the recent revelations from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, regarding the deadly listeria outbreak linked to a Boar's Head plant in Virginia. This situation is a stark reminder of the systemic failures within our food industry, failures that disproportionately affect our communities. The alarming records unveiled by USDA inspectors detail a disturbing reality: recurrent violations, the presence of mold, mildew, and insects, and a blatant disregard for the health of consumers. This isn't just a lapse in standards, it's indicative of a larger issue that has been simmering for far too long. The aftermath of this outbreak is catastrophic. 57 hospitalizations and at least 8 reported deaths from states like Florida, Tennessee, New Mexico, and South Carolina tell a tragic story. This is not merely a statistic. It represents lives shattered, families left to mourn, and communities forced to grapple with the consequences of negligence. It poses the question, how many more lives must be put at risk before we demand accountability in the food industry, especially in our own neighborhoods, where access to safe, healthy food is often compromised? Our history has shown us that marginalized communities frequently bear the brunt of these crises. The food systems in place are often riddled with health hazards, exploitation, and negligence, leaving us vulnerable to the very corporations that are supposed to nourish us. Time and again, we have witnessed how these systems prioritize profits over people, trivializing our health and well-being. In the face of this injustice, it is imperative that we take control of our own health. It is time to turn our focus toward organic foods and fresh produce, a return to the way our ancestors ate. Organic foods, free from harmful chemicals and additives, offer us a pathway to better health and wellness. When we opt for fruits and vegetables with seeds in them, we embrace nature's design, fostering real nourishment and a deeper connection to the earth. These choices empower us, giving us the agency to reclaim our health and push back against a system that often leaves us behind. Switching to organic foods is not just a personal choice, it is a communal statement. It challenges the status quo and underscores our demand for a food system that prioritizes our health, dignity, and future. We have the power to support local farmers and businesses that align with our values, creating a sustainable community that ensures our families have access to nourishing, safe food. It is time for us to rise from the shadows of complacency and take action. The recent listeria outbreak is a wake-up call, an opportunity for us to reclaim our health and advocate for a food system that respects our rights and lives. The reported violations at the Boar's Head plant are more than just numbers. They signify a broader problem that we can no longer afford to ignore. We must hold the industry accountable while simultaneously seeking alternatives that nourish us both physically and spiritually. Together, we can create a future where our families are no longer subjected to the negligence of a fractured system. Let us choose health, let us choose nourishment, and let us choose a better tomorrow.
Saying people would come out to see Megan. We love Megan. People will come out to see, I don't know who else is local to Atlanta. They could have brought somebody from Love and Hip Hop. They could have brought literally anybody. I don't really care what it is you do in your personal life. Like, I don't know what Suki Hana necessarily would vote for, but I know what her music says. And even if she brought Suki Hana out, people would have came to see her. So you don't have to like go up there. Like if we're talking about black women representation and you're in a room with a black woman who's vying to be president of the United States, why would you be the other black woman in the room doing everything that we say we don't want to be represented as? We don't want to be sexualized. We don't want to be the girls that are expected to twerk. We don't want men to feel like they can just come up and violate us. Yet you would promote that on a world stage with somebody who's trying to be a world leader. Like, this is who we are, and I feel like you connect best to this audience.
Well, I don't think the people that listen to Meg or Meg supporters want to be over-sexualized. I don't think they want to be assaulted.
Why would you put that on a world stage? That wouldn't, again,
because women like women exactly, and women like that exist. There are women, there are educated women,
and they don't act like that at work.
That's her job, though. That's Megan Thee Stallion's job.
Megan Thee Stallion has shown up to plenty of places, like when she went to court and did not do all that.
Of course, because court is not the entertainment arena. But I'm saying
politics is supposed to be an entertainment arena. You've got a passport. You seem like a well-traveled man. You don't want to go to these other countries and wonder why they have these stereotypes of us. Because when they turn on the TV, that's all they see. Black people need to understand that. Other people who come here are not racist because they think black men are thugs and black girls like to get ratchet and have sex all the time. That's all they see. That's all of our music. So when they hear our music, that's what they see. I just came back from Paris and they all know bow, bow, bow and Sexy Red. That's the only thing they can ask me. Oh, you're American? You like Sexy Red? And it's like, okay, like, yeah, I do.
Because that's the simplest form of art that can translate to these other cultures.
And unfortunately, the simplest form of art that translates to other cultures, rich, poor, whatever, all we are represented as are thugs and hoes. And that's not okay. And as somebody vying to be president, you wouldn't want that representation on the world stage. It just doesn't go together. As a black woman trying to get people to take her serious as the next president of the United States, why would you choose it? And again, if she could have been a singer and just covered some songs that were more appropriate. But Megan literally didn't have one appropriate song to perform there, and nothing about the performance said this should rock the vote. You are voting for these things.
Let me say this. I think what you're saying may or may not be true, but guess what? Those people were already thinking about that. They already looked at black people that way. They already did.
So why? Okay, so they already looked at us like that.
There was
so
like
we should be okay with continuing to normalize.
We've had enough well-spoken Negroes walk into these places and show you that there's another. We had a black president a few years ago. We've had a black man represent the highest form of office. So if that's not going to teach them that black people are worthy of respect, that we're more than thugs and hoes.
One black man. Again, I'm telling you.
We've had one. That's one black man.
Not everybody who you're mentioning in these other countries, while they do watch the news a lot, not all of them are doing that. So we're looking at how we're represented overall. Art is the easiest translated form of communication. In which case, if all of our art forms going to these other countries are us killing each other and us being hoes, then we cannot blame them for thinking that way. That's not, Obama couldn't say that. He was one man. So to them, Obama was the anomaly. Us over here, we know there's more Obamas than there are Sexy Reds. But it's on us then to make sure the rest of the world knows that we have more Obamas than we do Sexy Reds.
We've already shown them that.
So you cannot be Kamala Harris and get on stage with a Sexy Red counterpart and be like, hey, still take us serious as these super...
But Donald Trump can align himself with Lil Pump
Donald
and
Trump
Kodak?
is Donald Trump. What are we gonna...
What?
Donald Trump is Donald Trump. A rich white man and a black woman have different life experiences and different plights. Just women, period, have a different experience when climbing the corporate ladder. Women, period, have to move differently when climbing the corporate ladder. You women, look at this. Kamala Harris' suits are never too tight because she doesn't want to be sexualized. Kamala Harris's heels are never too high because she doesn't want to be sexualized. Kamala Harris doesn't do her hair too long because she doesn't want to be sexualized. So why in the world would you go and make sure that your appearance is what something black women can be proud of? But then you would align yourself with the very thing a lot of black women over the age of 25, most black women over the age of 25 do not want to be looked at as a Megan Thee Stallion.
But guess what?
Or
There are women Megan's age, younger and older, that exist in the same realm that Megan Thee Stallion exists. And for them,
what's
that
realm?
was...
Megan Thee Stallion is a college-educated woman.
Exactly. Who likes to get lit and have fun. So when those people
All of us like to get lit and have fun. I like to get lit and have fun, but you didn't see me get lit and have fun on the stage.
Yeah, because that wasn't your role in that current moment.
Who said it wasn't? So you mean to tell me if they told me to twerk, you think I would go do it? Because I think that would translate
I
as
don't
a
know
great
what.
message to the audience.
This is our first time. This is our first
Maggie
time having
doesn't
a
have to
conversation.
twerk as a part of her job.
In that moment,
She
it was
literally does
in
not
that-
have to.
In
as
that
a part of
moment,
her
she
job.
was booked as a performer. So she
And
gave
part of
a
your
performance.
And you can do it. And when she performs at high schools, she does not twerk. So where was that 1, 2, 8 count?
I've never seen Megan perform at a high school. I don't think that's
Coming up,
appropriate.
she was not always doing that. And yeah, she's performed at, I guess events catered.
But
to.
I've seen artists that will go to a high school and keep that same stage presence. What I'm saying though
that's
is
on the high school and watch how all the parents complain. Like, why did you allow this at my child's school?
I've seen it.
So if the parents will complain about having it at the school, then why, as a nation, will we not complain about having that?
And
on
you
the
have a
national
right,
stage?
but you have a right to complain. I never said I was a fan of it,
We
but I
complain
said,
about love and hip hop, and we hate how love and hip hop is a horrible representation of us as black women, of us as black people.
It absolutely is. But I look at
But
love
we
and hip.
can't
I look
say-
at love and hip hop as empty calories. It don't mean. It's not gonna. It don't mean shit.
The rest of the world doesn't, though. The rest of the world thinks that that's how black people really are.
Well,
And that's how we
if
interact.
you can look
And
at the
it's
black
our fault
politicians
for
that we've
promoting
had
this
in
type of degeneracy.
Because people like that exist. We promote everything. That just catches easier. As a member,
like Obama exists, where's their reality show?
as a member of
People
the
like me exist, where's my reality show?
I'm gonna give you one.
Like,
but as a member of the media, I know what people stick to more. At this other spot I used to work at, that we dropped a piece about a community engagement and celebrity gossip the same day. Guess what got more interaction?
Of course the gossip's gonna get more. Negativity drives people. But does that mean that you should live a life in which you promote negativity? Is that your calling from God, to promote negativity? So just because that's what's popular, that doesn't mean that that's what you have to do. What makes you the most money isn't always the righteous thing to do. You could die tomorrow and you're gonna tell God, look God, sorry, I couldn't promote the positivity because it wasn't getting me enough likes.
No. Absolutely wrong. Because I'm in the school systems as well.
Mm-hmm.
If all they see is the negativity, then they're not paying attention. And then that brings me back to another point that I made, that they already wanted to see me like that.
All we do is support negativity.
As a
well, let me not say y'all, but as many people who should support artists like J. Cole or Rhapsody or Tierra Whack, whatever, they don't. But we support the Megan Thee Stallions, the Young Thugs, the Sexy Reds, and their music is great. We're not going to deny their talent. But in regards to who we want to represent us on the national stage, whose streams do we hope get billions of worldly views, it should be these artists who promote positivity within the community and over artists who promote that we kill each other and abort all of our babies. Like, I don't see anything wrong with having a problem with that, and acting like I have to normalize it because it's already the status quo, to me, is also detrimental. Because at what point do you not want better? At what point do you not advocate for change?
Listen closely to the voices that echo through our airwaves, the radio hosts, the entertainers, the influencers. Their words often resonate with a disheartening familiarity, laden with a tone that reflects not just individual choices, but the collective state of our culture. We find ourselves at a crossroads, grappling with a crisis of identity, exacerbated by a relentless pursuit of fame and wealth, a trajectory that has led many of us astray from our core values. With each broadcast, we hear the glorification of lifestyles that prioritize monetary gain and social media notoriety over integrity and respect. In a society that lauds these superficial achievements, we, as a community, have made a grave error. We have forgotten to hold ourselves accountable. The pursuit of success has overshadowed the importance of morals, leaving us vulnerable to the false narratives perpetuated by entertainers who should know better. Instead of using their platforms to uplift, many have chosen to play the fool in a spectacle that caters to the lowest common denominator. What does this say about us? It speaks volumes about a culture that has, in many ways, surrendered its dignity to the lowest bidder. The pervasive influence of media has transformed our perception of success, equating it with an existence stripped of authenticity. We now witness individuals embracing caricatures of themselves, clowns in a tragicomic production that reinforces the stereotypes historically thrust upon us. When we laugh at their antics, we inadvertently validate a narrative that has long been used to dehumanize us. But it's not merely the entertainers who should be scrutinized. It's also the responsibility we bear in allowing these portrayals to take root in our communities. We have become complicit in this cycle, choosing enjoyment over enlightenment, spectacle over substance. Too often, we celebrate those who thrive in the spotlight of capricious fame while ignoring the lasting impacts their actions have on our collective identity. We are, as a result, perpetuating a culture that diminishes our worth and reinforces negative stereotypes. As we nurture the next generation, we must be vigilant in protecting their impressionable minds from these harmful influences. We must be discerning about what we allow them to consume, guiding them towards representations that inspire pride rather than shame. It is our duty to foster an environment that encourages critical thinking and instills a sense of accountability not only to ourselves but to each other. If we do not take a stand now, the consequences will be dire. We risk losing the essence of who we are, transforming into the very caricatures that others delight in depicting. The first step towards change is recognizing the problem. We are at a pivotal juncture where we must refuse to settle for being the punchline of someone else's joke. We can reclaim our narrative, but it requires conscious effort and a commitment to authenticity. We can demand better from those we elevate to the status of role models, holding them accountable for the messages they disseminate and the impact they have on our youth. We must cultivate pride in our heritage, ensuring that our children grow up in a culture that respects their potential and values their contributions. Let us collectively reject the notion that our worth is easily measured by celebrity and endorsement deals. Instead, we can chart a new path, one rooted in the principles of accountability, integrity, and unity. We owe it to ourselves and to future generations to dismantle the harmful narratives that have taken hold. Only then can we build a culture that truly reflects our strength, resilience, and unwavering spirit. It starts with us.
About the complete independence of people of African descent here in the Western Hemisphere, and first here in the United States, and bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary. That's our motto. We want freedom by any means necessary. We want justice by any means necessary. We want equality by any means necessary. We don't feel that in 1964, living in a country that is supposedly based upon freedom and supposedly the leader of the free world, we don't think that we should have to sit around and wait for some segregationist congressmen and senators and a president from Texas in Washington, D.C. to make up their mind that our people are due now some degree of civil rights. No, we want it now, or we don't think anybody should have it.